You're listening to the Study Podcast with Dr. Paul Wegner. I'm your host, Tyler Sanders, and across from me is Dr. Paul Wegner. He's going to give us the Hebrew word of the day.
All right, here we are. This one is kind of interesting because if you get to the yellow there, and that says between your eyes.
Okay.
But look at the translation, and it came it shall serve as a sign to you in your hand and as a reminder of on your forehead, literally between your eyes.
Oh.
Yeah, there actually is a Hebrew word for forehead, so I'm surprised they don't use it. But this one is more between your eyes, and then so that's the first phrase.
How do you say that part? How do you say
bayin,
Bayin.
and then bayanaka,
Bayanaka.
baneka.
Beneka. And so that's between the eyes.
Yeah.
Or it's translated often as more like on the forehead.
Well, at least in this case, yeah.
In this case is.
And then the next one is the Torah of Yahweh. Do you see there?
Yeah.
And it will be the Torah of Yahweh in your mouth is the next phrase. So I just wanted you to see that so that you'd actually see what we're looking at today. Because today we have a little special presentation on the Torah scroll that we actually just received.
Yeah, this is a pretty neat pretty neat gift we received.
Yeah. So I did a presentation on it, and I want to show you what we. These are the two people that actually got it for us, the Larsons.
The Larsons,
and
okay.
we went up and picked this up. That's Alex and I, and we picked it up, and that's the scroll. That scroll is 123 feet and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, it is huge, and it's really hard to roll up and back.
Sure,
That's the hardest thing on this one.
Yeah.
All right, so the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, and so that whole scroll is just the first 5 books.
5.
Yeah. So the Hebrew word Torah means instruction, and so that's really where that comes from.
Yeah.
And the scroll is pasul, which means it's no longer in use. Because something happened to it, like flaked off ink or a tear or
This
something.
specific
like
one that we received.
all of them that they sell or they give to places
Yeah.
have been pasul, they call them,
Interesting.
and no longer usable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you some of ours has got some little ink flaked off. But it's not bad. I mean, it's in very good condition. Now, they didn't tell us this, but they kind of talked a little around it. I think this is the store they must have bought it at in Israel.
Oh, really?
I've been by this, and I've never been in it. I didn't know what it was, really. And they said in the basement, they have scrolls stacked all the way up to the ceiling that they have got in the past. So there's tons of them there, apparently.
Huh.
Yeah, so I thought was interesting. This is a description of ours. We're going to go into it, but basically, it's from the Netherlands, from 1870 to 1900, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And they can tell
It's
that.
created then?
Yeah, and they can tell that by the writing. It's called it's Ashkenazi house, basically Joseph script, and it's basically that's what the text is written in, so they can even tell by that the date of it. Yeah. There's 4. The sinew stitching. That's sinew is made from. Well, I guess I don't think
Isn't
it's
it gut.
Yeah, it's gut.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that, but
well, I'll say it.
Yeah, okay. So it must be from calf or something like that.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's what holds together. And the ink is
That holds each page together, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Kind of it's kind of
right. Yeah, or it's well, we'll see it. You can see this one. The stitching is over on that side, and then it goes for about 4 columns, and then there'll be stitching on this side.
Yeah.
It's black iron sulfate is the ink that they put it in.
Wow.
Yeah. The Qumran scrolls are kind of interesting. They used some similar kind of ink, but it had enough acid in it that it would eat through the papyrus.
Wow.
Yeah, so one of the oldest Dead Sea Scrolls, all it has is a spot or places where the ink used to be on the papyrus.
Really?
Yeah.
And so it's like a hole. Almost.
Yeah.
Wow.
This one is these are better because these aren't made on papyrus, which is a plant-based thing that would easily
Yeah. These are a little bit
deteriorate.
hardier, kind of.
Yeah. There's 163 corrections made by erasures. Okay, so we'll see what some of them
Where
look
they
like.
get rid of the ink, basically, and write over it?
and write over it, yeah. There's 42 lines per column. That's must be a pretty standard. I know scrolls can have more than that depending on their size. But I know that when they were printing the Gutenberg Bible, it's called a 42 line
really?
column. Yeah. So it must have been a standard
Interesting.
column for things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's 247 columns on parchment. And this parchment is pretty high quality.
Okay.
As you look at it, it's pretty bright, and the front side is very smooth. The back side, you can tell that there's been scraping or something like that. So, but the front side is real clear.
Yeah, it looks very in very
Yeah.
good shape.
It's 22.25 inches high and 123 feet, 5 inches, and 30 seconds. So it's almost 30, it's almost 6 inches long.
Yeah. And it's all one thing.
All one. Well, with these
with the
stitching.
seams kind of.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
The script is slightly pre-Mishnaic Barucha, they call it, and its Masoretic paragraphing is pretty much standard. Okay, this is Genesis 1. Can you see the Baith that's real big at the beginning?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much standard in almost all the scrolls, or all the, most of the scrolls I saw, but also most of the Hebrew Bibles, you'll see a big Baith at the beginning too.
For what that's just the very beginning of
Genesis.
So
Yeah.
that's not something they use in other
Nope.
to break apart other books or anything like that. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
fascinating.
there must be a reason for that. But
Yeah.
can you see the little marks on the Baith are what they call tagim?
At the top?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that means daggers. Yeah, and so you can see actually quite a few
Yeah.
of the letters have those. I'll show you later. But that's,
What is that? What's that for? Is that like a decorative kind of thing?
Yeah, they call it crowning of the tagim. They call it. Yeah, it's for decoration. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's inconsistent. They didn't, most of the letters, like a Baith, a Daleth, a Kof, a Chet, a He, and a Yod, are sometimes colored, or you'll have these tagim, but not all of them. So it's inconsistent. I could never tell exactly when it was going to happen and when it wasn't.
Yeah, like there may be a clear reason why this
Yeah.
is happening or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, is this a stylistic thing that's like, would different writers or script, what's the word I'm trying to say?
Well,
scribes maybe.
yeah.
Would they have different style of kind of crown things, or is this pretty common across all?
Well, this actually helps us know that it's from the Netherlands at this time period.
Oh,
so this was
interesting.
quite common at this time period.
Huh.
Yeah. Can you see the word right in the middle of our text there? You can see there's some flaking of ink
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
And that's what would have, at a certain point, there'd be enough of that they would consider it no longer usable. Yeah. A friend of mine.
Still legible.
Yeah.
Still legible for us, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. A friend of mine told me that today, when they make a scroll, it costs $100,000 for a scribe to write one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it that way. It's still being handwritten.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, and here's another one. Apparently, having that word there is shalom with ba on it at the beginning, but apparently, usually on the word shalom, the wow is broken. Ours doesn't do that. So apparently, there's some kind of a breakage in the wow, but none of ours have that. So ours was different than the standard ones because it didn't have the broken.
What
wow.
does that mean? It's broken, like it's in two pieces, kind of.
Yeah,
they would do
through the middle of that letter, there would be a break in it, and
like
so
a slash, or like it would actually be like they lift up.
lift
the
up,
ink.
and so there'd be two parts on it. Yeah, and apparently ours is unusual in that it didn't have any
That's
of
kind of
those.
fascinating.
Yeah. All right, there's different kinds. There's what are called a giant. I can't imagine how big that one would be.
Yeah.
Ours is large, and ours is 22 inches high or something
Yeah.
like that. It's over 123 feet long, and it's that is our large one.
Yeah.
Medium are a little smaller than that, and then they have small ones that are actually about 2 inches.
Wow.
That's probably more for when they put them in on the doorposts and things
sure,
like
yeah,
that. And they have there's a specific name for it. I can't remember what it
So
is.
if it's 2 inches tall, how long is it the same kind of script size where it's going to be extraordinarily long, or are you doing a shorter?
Some might do that. Some may not even do that. So some just could have a portion of it,
Yeah.
and put it in the things on the scroll or on the doorpost.
Wow.
Yeah, I just thought you should see. So ours is pretty good size.
Yeah.
There are two main groups of European Jews. One are the Ashkenazi, and then that's a Germanic Jew, and then Sephardic, and that's the Spain or Portugal.
And this one is Ashkenazi.
Yes.
Origin, basically, right?
Yep.
This scroll.
And a little about them. These are Jewish diaspora population who were initially dispersed from their origin in the Levant, or more where Palestine is, by the Holy Roman Empire around the end of the first millennium. That was a political entity in Western, Central, and Southern Europe. It's not the Roman Catholic Church, though we know that had it, but it was called the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
So, Yiddish was their traditional language. It's a Western Germanic language with Jewish and Slavonic linguistic elements, but it uses the Hebrew alphabet. So it's interesting, kind of a twist there.
Yeah.
And developed during the Middle Ages after persecution forced them from Germany and France into Northern and Eastern Europe.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, they moved from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which was made up of parts of modern-day Belarus, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Poland, Russia, Slovakia, and Ukraine.
Yeah.
So that's more of the area that it was.
Yeah.
I have a map later. I can show you that, too.
Yeah.
In the 1930s, it was thought that the Ashkenazi Jews made up 93% of the Jewish population.
Really?
But the Holocaust almost decimated that.
Wow. 93%.
Yeah. So, yeah, sad news. Here's
Yeah,
our map
very.
that shows kind of where they come from. And those areas that are some of the darker ones were basically 9 to 18% of these areas were Ashkenazi Jews.
Wow.
In the 1880s.
Meaning like 9 to 18% of the population in
Yeah.
these countries or areas.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
That is.
Yeah. So that should see that. Okay, Torah scrolls are generally kept covered when not in use. Eastern Sephardic Jews generally encase their scrolls in cylindrical
Yeah, I think
containers.
I've seen something like that
In fact, I
before.
got a picture of one I'll show
Yeah.
you. Often the Torah is tied with a girdle, they call it, and ours actually has that. It's just a stretchy cord or just stretchy material that will hold it tight. And then every Jew is encountered to is encouraged. To own his own Torah, and really, supposedly they're to write it, but sometimes we were told that often they'll just write. They'll pay to have it done, and then they'll write maybe one sentence of it, and then it'll be considered they had done it.
Wow.
So yeah.
Now, would most people own one as large as the one we have, or maybe
Probably
a bit
not.
smaller?
Yeah, I think that one was more for a synagogue kind of use.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And to write your own, that's what a task.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would they be looking at one and kind of copying directly?
I would think so.
That's kind of how it would work.
Yeah, but my guess is that probably doesn't happen much anymore.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, that would take a long time.
It
That
would.
be-
I think they say it takes about a year to make
Wow.
one. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Torah scrolls are generally kept covered when not being read, and they usually have this kind of a certain kind of
cloth or
material.
something kind of cover.
Yeah. And then here's the casement. This is a Sephardic encasement. It's out of silver, and then material on the top of it.
No, there are two poles in there. It kind of looks like a wood one and a metal one. Do you think are those the two edges, or is that something different?
Let me show you in a minute. This one is one that is more has a. They often have these wood dowels. They are often called the tree of life that actually helps roll them. If they have that, they're a lot easier to roll.
Yeah, I imagine.
Without it, it's really hard.
Yeah.
So
We do not have those.
ours doesn't have it. No. The Torah scrolls were often hidden in a place called a geniza, which means hidden, until they can be ceremonially buried. Often that was done so that Gentiles couldn't mock the name of God because it has the name of God in it. So they wanted to make sure it couldn't be made fun of or anything like that.
And why would they? Is that for one that is pasul?
Yeah.
Like it's time to be
Yes.
not in use anymore?
Yep.
Okay.
And then this one is a model made of the Cairo Geniza. Back in the 1900s, someplace they were redoing this big synagogue in Cairo, and they found one of these Cairo Geniza. It's called the Cairo Geniza.
Really?
And they found it, and it had all kinds of old manuscripts in it.
Wow.
All the way back. I think 5th century was the earliest they
Holy
found.
cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was amazing.
Yeah, what a find.
And I guess what happened is they were remodeling, and they painted over it and didn't even know it was there.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. It's forbidden to carry a Torah scroll through a cemetery unless you're going to bury it there. Yeah. So, yeah. Specific guidelines on how to copy one. Parchment from a clean animal. I guess that's probably a given. More than 3 mistakes on a page, you must start over.
Wow.
And that I don't know how seriously they took that, but that's in their documents as to how they were supposed to be done.
Wow.
Okay. And then every letter must be a hair's breadth from the other letters. And then scrolls must be creased before the letters are written. And let me show you what that means. Oh, I have a picture of one later, of a scroll that's been creased so that they put the lines on it, and then they can hang the letters from the lines.
Oh, okay.
That's what keeps them straight, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, tagging. That's an Aramaic word for daggers. These are marks on some of the letters, and I've got some of the letters there. But you can see what they would look like.
Yeah.
Okay. They gave us a list of 2 pages of single space things that we could look for in our scroll when we got it. And every scroll is slightly different, so it may not have all the things, but 2 pages of stuff you could look for.
Wow.
So that means there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
How to handle the scroll. We were to make sure that we have clean and dry hands whenever you use the scroll. Make sure the scroll cannot roll off like a table or something, because that could rip it pretty easily. Even though it's pasul, people may be offended by non-Jews handling it, so be very respectful and thoughtful.
Sure.
That's one thing I never really thought about, but is really important.
Yeah, it is important.
Yeah. You do not need to wear gloves because the natural oils in the hands don't really harm parchment, but if you put any moisturizers or anything of that
lotion or something.
Yeah, that can do damage. Here's, remember I told you about the ink? Do not try to touch it because it can flake off. And this is a place where you can see it's a lot more flaking than most places.
Yeah.
All right. Do not leave any liquids near the scroll.
Of course.
If displayed, the scroll should be kept out of direct sunlight. That can be one of the most harmful things for it.
Yeah.
And then rotate parts of it so that it's not always showing the same part.
Same section. Yeah.
Rolling and unrolling the scroll is the hardest part, especially since it's 123 feet long.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it's pretty heavy too.
yeah, it's not bad. I mean, you can pick it up fairly easy. We keep it in a like a gym bag, but to roll it is usually a 2-person job. It's that difficult.
Wow.
Yeah. Keep the top and bottom as straight as you can, and then roll it fairly tight. Not real tight, but fairly tight. That girdle I told you about that goes over it, it should fit over it without squeezing it, but should hold it fairly tight.
Yeah.
And that's how you know if you've got it about the right tightness. If it ever gets crooked, rolling, you have to start all over.
Yeah, sure.
That was frustrating. All right. There's many important orthographic features that we want to tell you about. Our scroll may not have all of them, but it will have a lot of them. And we spent quite a little while looking through it to find some of these things.
You've already looked through some of this
Yeah,
stuff. Okay.
yeah. Like the enlarged Baith on Bereshith at the beginning. You saw that.
And that looks like it has 4 points on the crown, too.
Those dagger things.
Is that
tagging.
kind of unique for the larger Baith, maybe?
No, not necessarily. You're going to see almost a lot of them have these.
Wow.
Yeah. It became, I think it was just the way the scribes did it at that point, so they ended up putting them on.
Yeah.
But they don't do every letter. It was interesting. Yeah. All right. In Genesis 2:4, there's a small hay. Could you see?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at first I thought it was a yod with a dot in it or something like
looks
that.
like that, yeah.
Yeah. At this point, I have no idea what that means. We're hopefully finding out more about this scroll, and we'll try to figure out what some of these are.
Do you think that could be? I know you just said you don't know exactly what it means.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing that could be a mistake
Oh,
that
no.
could be left in, or is that a copied? Like they copied this from another thing, and it probably was.
I'm pretty sure it's copied one because a lot of them had it.
Really?
So it wasn't like it was a mistake
yeah.
and then you had to squeeze it in.
Yeah.
We'll see some of those,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure that one was intentional.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
This is a final nun, but you can see it's got tagging on it.
Oh yeah.
All right. Can you see those little marks? Those are creases in the parchment before they would put the letters on. Then they'd hang those letters from it.
So you're saying they would actually crease it, like they would actually bend it.
Yeah, well, I assume they have a straight edge and probably have something.
Maybe some kind of
I would assume it's metal. But,
it kind of goes across the line.
Yeah, that would crease
and actually
it.
indents it in a way.
Yes, and then they'd hang it
wow.
from that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that helps you to know that. Oh, and then this one was supposed to be an unusual yod, but I thought, well, look, it's like it's got a yod, nun, yod, and that's our word eyes. You know, her eyes. It's a feminine ending on it. So I'm thinking that probably that would be common.
Yeah.
So I was actually kind of surprised that this one was so unique to have that like that. So. Oh, well. There's the Way of the Sea in Exodus 15 is made with, ours was just amazing with all these decorations on
the
it.
crowns are like multi-layer on this basically for several of the characters.
And also what he said is that those, the way that was arranged was to make it look like a wall of water. It's like, almost looks like brick, and they thought is to make it look like water.
Well, yeah, it kind of has almost a brick layout.
Yeah.
Where the words are, like they kind of, as they stack, they kind of line up every other line.
Yeah.
And some of those characters are so wide.
Yeah. Oh, and that's to fill up lines
Yeah.
because they want them to be square.
Yeah.
On that. Yeah. Yeah. That's quite common.
Where is that? That's Exodus 15?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was something. And then almost every one of our pays in ours, and we were supposed to look up and find some, but ours had them almost everywhere. Almost every time I saw a pay, it was large. So,
Well, yeah, because it goes down lower than all the other.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay, there's a nun, and then here's a shin or a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can see some of the ink is coming off a little.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another one with a yod, nun, yod.
Mm-hmm.
Now that one's not decorated. The reason I pointed that one out though is, can you see the dot above it?
Yeah.
That's a dot above it often means that they're questioning that letter.
Oh.
Yeah, and
really?
I'll show you some other places like
Well,
that.
because there's several other yods on this page that don't have that.
Yes.
So it's just a note, some kind of footnote almost, maybe.
Letting us know that that's at least a questionable spot. So dots above any letter usually suggests that.
It's so interesting because it's so. I mean, I guess a crown would usually have at least three marks or whatever, but the line is so thin.
That's
from the dot to back down to the radical.
Almost makes you wonder how they did that. Because it must have been a really fine brush or something.
Yeah.
Okay. See those dots above those letters?
Oh yeah, all three. Yeah.
Yeah. So dots above them pretty much are an indication that they think there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
Oh, and this one had a small
oh yeah.
Yeah, cough. And I'm going, oh, interesting. Once again, I wouldn't have known that was what it was until I looked at it.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a small cove.
What's that other mark next to it? Do you see that? That kind of dropping below it?
Oh, that's part of the cove.
There's a big one right next to it. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So that's a cove. There's a small one now in there. And so once again, it's a mark to let you know that I think on this one, they think that cove should be there and somehow it dropped out.
Huh.
Yeah. All right, now all those letters have dots above them. That's the word for kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when Esau and Jacob were running towards each other, and he was weeping and kissed him.
Yeah.
They're questioning that kissed, I guess.
Yeah. Every character in that word has the dot over it.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, here's the blank lines after Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm.
So it lets you know that there was a space
A
there.
break for the next book, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, there's some of the embellishments.
Oh, this is back on the Exodus 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having them even stacked. That was kind of amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there's another one.
Yeah, that is 3 layers.
Yeah.
3 layers of the crown, basically.
So, I mean,
Which there's space for it because of how the
way
words
they
are
wrote
set
it.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Ours was more embellished than almost any of the other scrolls
Really?
was. Yeah.
Wow.
It was really something. Now, these are the 10 Commandments. And notice how the lows are all put along the side.
Yeah. Now, that's kind of a fascinating thing, too, that they didn't extend characters in this. They left blank spaces, but then they have they keep that edge.
Yeah.
Either edge, they would just spread out and have big blank spaces.
And usually they did it the other way of stretching out the letters.
Yeah.
So that was probably let you know that. There's cursive writing on the back of panel 30 of ours.
Okay.
That's modern Hebrew.
Yeah. I can kind of see that.
Here's some more dots. This is Moses and Aaron.
Oh,
so
yeah, I
in
see,
Numbers 3:13, the question is Aaron supposed to be there? And the reason is because in almost all the other places it says Moses said this. This one actually has Moses and Aaron.
And Aaron saying it.
Yeah. So they're questioning whether actually Aaron was saying it or not.
Yeah.
That's a big nun.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what it's there for. Oh, and these are upside down nuns, and they're marking off that verse, it looks like, in Exodus 34:7. So that one, and that one is a known variant, break. But apparently that verse is at least in somewhat question.
So maybe this is functioning the same way as the dots above.
Yeah. I think so, although I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
But I've seen these nuns like this before.
Upside down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. There's another, remember I told you about the shalom?
Yeah.
There's another one, and it's not broken. It has no break in it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I wanted to show you another close-up. This was handwriting on the back, and it says, Hanan means either gracious or kind or something like that. So a gracious book or something like that.
Wow.
That was on panel 42 of ours, and in handwriting.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Very light.
Yeah, at least lighter than the.
Yeah.
It probably is written in pencil.
Yeah, different kind of.
Yeah. All right. Oh, this is Deuteronomy 6:4, the Shema. And at the beginning of it and at the end have 2 big letters. And that's, again, standard.
Yeah.
And so ours was just showing that again. This is the end of the scroll. And I just wanted you to see that there was nothing after it. Okay.
It's interesting. It looks a little bit rougher, too.
Well, do you see the creases?
Yeah.
Towards the end, it gets more creases in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. It could be wrapped around the edge of the, would that be maybe the last,
of the
like the
wood,
outer
maybe.
edge of the wrap? Kind of?
For some reason, when they have these, almost none of them had the dowels on the end.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've taken them off or it is easier to carry without them. I don't know.
Maybe so,
Yeah. All right, common things to look for. Evidence for preparation of the skin, like scraping or stuff like that. We could find that on ours. There was on the back was much rougher.
Yeah.
One was really interesting that we looked at on ours. There was a patch done on the back of it.
Yeah.
But but apparently it went all the way through the parchment. But on the front, you couldn't see it at all.
Right.
It was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So you could see it on the back that it was
all
pasted.
the work is kind of done in the back.
Yeah, but in the front was almost perfect.
Wow.
Yeah. So, stamps or seals or colophons. Colophons are anything that would sit probably from the scribe or anything like that at the end of the scroll, telling you, like some of them actually explain the in some of them it talks about the hard job of a scribe,
Right?
But some of them praise God that it's finally done.
So what else do those kind of indicate? Maybe who owned it?
Some
or
of them do.
Who paid for it to be made or
Sure.
something like that?
Yeah. Ours didn't have anything like that. So, Sofer marks, they maybe extent or erase. Sofer means the scribe. So the scribe could have put some kind of marks on it. And I didn't notice very many on ours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cutout corrections, that's the one I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Erasure corrections, there were some of those done where they could scrape off the ink. And
you think that's how they would just kind of scrape off a layer of...
Yeah, the skin, or at least the ink off and then rewrite it. Letter separations, like the ink would sometimes pull apart, and you might see that.
Yeah.
Letter repairs. Again, ours didn't have many things like that. Missing letters or words supplied in the margins. We didn't have any of those, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Replace panels. We may have had some of those because you can actually tell when the parchment is a different color. Probably it's been changed. Yeah, and then those are many other. There's many other things, but those are some I thought get you thinking about it. We're happy and honored to have received this manuscript. The manuscript is worth anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000, and it may be higher than that.
Yeah.
What we do, it's really hard to know how much these things are worth.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that there's a limited supply of them, and we know that they're not making a whole lot more new ones.
Right.
So they're so as they get more older and more valuable, the price will keep going up. As they get fewer of them too.
Yeah.
So, okay. So it's very hard to tell what ours was worth.
Yeah.
Yeah. This helps us to know some of the scribal tendencies with these older manuscripts, and it's kind of fun to see. I was amazed at that way of the sea, in the Exodus passage.
Yeah.
That just amazed me because the scribe went way overboard to make it really stand out, and that means that every time somebody reads through that, it's going to stand out and remind them of God protecting His people in Egypt.
Yeah.
Or as they came out.
Yeah.
All right. So I thought that was helpful. We learned that they've treated their scrolls very, very reverently. And I think that is helpful to know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's very evident.
And to think that just because of some ink flaking off or something like that, at some point they'll call it basul and not use it anymore.
Yeah.
I thought was kind of amazing. I think my Bible was almost falling apart, but I still want to use it because it's got my notes in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, a new scroll. I put here. It costs about $100,000, and they're very difficult to create and take about a year for a scribe to do it.
Yeah.
So,
and there are still some being.
Yeah.
It's rare.
Yeah. Synagogues will probably have one that's made for them.
Yeah.
So. We learned how difficult it is to handle scrolls too. I was amazed. I thought, oh man, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
We rolled it almost all the way out because I wanted to find the way of the sea and some of those.
Yeah.
Trying to get it back was really hard. My wife and I spent probably a half hour trying to get this scroll rolled properly and get it back. So it is kind of amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, I thought that would help us to know a little about, well, not only what ours looks like, but also to help people know what scrolls are, what the unique things that they can have in them, how they're made, the actual writing of how they do it.
Yeah.
So I thought that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I guess we should have known this, but it doesn't have any pointing on it, so it's all consonantal. And even in the consonants, they've got some really small letters or some really large letters to note things.
Yeah. No, this is an interesting piece, I think, for the seminary.
Yeah.
Because this isn't going to just be like a museum piece, right?
Right. This one is actually, they want us to be able to use it.
Yeah.
So that's...
how's that going to happen?
Yeah, I think the best thing could be is if a teacher will take it to a class and then unroll it and let them actually work with it.
Yeah.
And I actually want to see if I can get a PhD student to actually work on some of these issues,
like some
that
of those
are
things
in
to
there.
look for.
Yeah.
Kind of catalog it, basically.
Yeah. And just be, it'd be wonderful to have somebody that we know that's a professional at knowing what these signs refer to and how they look, and how do you know when they were written based upon the shape of the letters or the how they and where they come from that way.
Yeah. Would that be like a dissertation, you think?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if there's any interested PhD students out there.
There we go.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. I love that idea that it'll be, it's meant to be used still educationally. I think that's going to be such a unique experience in the classroom to be able to look at it. It does change kind of your perspective on it,
Yep.
And I think even I mean, even like you were showing me, dots above the letters to show kind of questions. We talked about textual criticism in a previous episode.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating, I think, to look at it in the Hebrew.
And
that
actually,
they were looking at the same kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
this is an interesting word.
yeah,
Maybe it doesn't fit the way we think of this passage, but we're still going to have it in here.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That's a fascinating thing. It's not something. I guess what's fascinating about that is that it's not a modern invention. That we're looking at a text
True.
that we're so far removed from that we almost have no context in a way if we just come to it. But
Yeah.
this is a text that's been studied for hundreds and hundreds of years, and people have asked a lot of questions about it and tried to figure a lot of pieces out.
yeah. And they've got ways to mark so that you know that
Yeah.
there's some question in the text.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that's fun.
Yeah, it's very fascinating.
Well, that's it for our scroll anyway.
I think that's good. That's a good wrap up, I think, for our episode today.
Okay.
And I wish we had a bigger podcast studio and you could have brought it in here and we could have looked at it in person. you
Well,
know?
we might still do that.
Yeah,
So we'll
there we
see.
go. We'll just have to go to a classroom, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, well, thank you so much for telling us all about this. And look forward to doing it next week.
Thank you.